So good afternoon, everyone. Once again, as we are going to start the new chapter, and I had told you in the previous class to read the story of Tut. So the title of the chapter we are going to start is Discovering Tut. Discovering Tut, the saga continues. Saga means the series, the story. So there's the title, there's the story written by A.R. Williams. Okay, now in the story, in the chapter which we are going to read, A.R. William, he describes about the tomb of Tutankhamun or Tut. So he describes that there was a British archaeologist whose name was Howard Carter. So this fellow Howard Carter, a British archaeologist, he had found the tomb, he had discovered the tomb of Tut in 1922 after his futile work in the different areas, different place. In 1922 he had discovered the tomb of Tut, and he was astonished, he was surprised that still it was plated with gold, silver, and all the materials. It was intact. All the things were there in the casket. So remember, in short, Howard Carter, a British archaeologist, he had found it after his futile years working there in different parts as an archaeologist in 1922, Tomb of Tut. So actually this word is T-O-M-B, tomb, be silent, and many people call it tomb. No, so tomb is correct. Correct one is tomb, T-O-M-B, and B remains silent. So this is the tomb of Jesus Christ, tomb of Tut. And in those days, in Egyptian culture, we must also study a little bit research about Egyptian culture, Pharaoh, that those days, these people, according to their custom, according to their culture, according to their religion, because they believed in resurrection, because they believed in life after death. In Christianity also it is believed. Same way here also, Egyptian also according to their mythology or faith or whatever you call it, but they had a faith, they had believed that there is life after that. So therefore, they used to preserve the dead body, especially the great personalities, king, queens, prince, princess, anybody from royal family used to die. Their family members, the family members of those royal families, they used to preserve the dead bodies, and that dead body used to be called as the mummy. So here also we can call the mummy. Tut's body is equal to Tut's mummy. So mummy here stand for the dead body. So remember about Tut that he ruled for 9 years and he died at teenage. At very young age, around 18 or 19 years old, he died. And after his death, there were many mysteries. So, in order to solve those mysteries related to his death, related to curse, his life, and other things, there was a CT scan, scientific reconstruction was done on him. So it was in 2009 that his body was taken out of the tomb. So to stand first in dead or alive, it is said that he stand first in dead or alive whose body was scanned, जिसकी body पर CT scan हुआ था in 2009 from the Pharaoh dynasty or the ruler family of Pharaoh. So in 2009 a CT scan was done on him, on his body, and the purpose of his this CT scan was to identify, to find out, to investigate the mysteries related to his death. Many people assume that he was murdered. Many said it was natural death. Many said it was he was poisoned, and different speculations done by different personality, different people. So in order to break those mysteries, to disclose the mystery, the CT scan was done so that they could have a scientific proof, scientific evidence. And remember, he was the last heir of Pharaoh dynasty. Pharaoh dynasty, Tutankhamun family. And now, when we read the story, when we read the chapter, there are many things you would come to know about Tut and his forefathers, his family, how his name was changed, who were his forefathers, and many other investigation process taken by Howard Carter. So, in short, I have just told you that. Now let us begin it on page number 22nd. All of you, let's start page number 22nd. So those who are ready to read, they can raise your hand, and you are most welcome for reading it aloud. So who is going to read? Raise your hand. No one. Charvi Gupta is there. Okay, Charvi, start. Read. Begin.
Yes, he was just a teenager when he died, the last heir of a powerful family that had ruled Egypt and its empire for centuries. He was laid to rest, laden with gold, and eventually forgotten. Since the discovery of his tomb in 1922, the modern world has speculated about what happened to him, with murder being the most extreme possibility. Now, leaving
So
his tomb for the first
remember,
time.
yes, he was teenager when he died, not a very great age, just 18 or 19, and a powerful ruler, last ruler of Tutankhamun Pharaoh dynasty. And he was laid to rest, laden with gold, silver, precious materials, precious things. And as I told you, his tomb was found in 1922, and people speculated means guess karna, andaza lagana, assume karna about his death. And many of the people speculated that he died because of murder. Somebody murdered him, and most probably possibility was murder. Now, leaving his tomb for the first time in almost 80 years. So, after 80 years since he was put into that tomb, he was removed from that tomb. Tut had undergone a CT scan that offers new clues about his life and death, and provides precise data for an accurate forensic reconstruction of the boyish pharaoh. So still the author calls him a boy. He calls him boyish pharaoh. Pharaoh is the word stand for the kings in Egypt. In Egypt they call pharaoh. The title of the king is given pharaoh. Yes, continue, Charvi.
An angry wind stirred up ghostly dust devils as King Tut was taken from his resting place in the ancient Egyptian cemetery known as the Valley of the Kings. Dark bellied clouds had scudded across the desert sky all day and now were veiling the stars in the casket grey.
So when
It
his
was
body
6
was
p.m.
removed, that time strange thing happened. And what was that strange thing? Wind start blowing, heavy wind start blowing. So angry wind stirred up ghostly dust devils as king. So it seems that all these things, this nature environment, it was trying to protect the tomb of Pharaoh, body of Pharaoh. It was stopping these people to remove his body from there. But still, Tut was taken from his resting place, that is from his tomb, and the tomb was the ancient Egyptian cemetery. Cemetery means what? Kabristan. Cemetery is a place where the burial take place, where the dead bodies are buried. That is called cemetery. Remember, cemetery means Kabristan. And this cemetery was known as what? Valleys of the King. It was known as Valley of the King. Why it was known Valley of the Kings? Because people from royal family, all those royal people died, they were buried there only. Dark bellied clouds had scudded across. So when his body was being removed from the tomb, dark clouds were scudding. Dark clouds were coming and encircling them. चारों तरफ से बादल आकर के उनको घेर रहे थे. The desert sky all day and now were veiling the stars in cascade gray. And they couldn't see the stars clearly because of the desert, because of wind, everywhere the sand and other dust particles were there. So even they couldn't see the stars. Veiling the stars were hidden sometime and sometime they could see. It was 6 p.m. on 5th January 2005. So the incident was 6 p.m. 2005. The world's most famous mummy glided head first into a CT scanner. So this was the time where the first mummy and its head was put into the CT scan machine, brought here to probe the lingering medical mysteries of this little understood young ruler. So why the machine was brought? The machine was brought in order to investigate, in order to find out the mystery related to the death of King Tut, who died more than 3,300 years ago. So it's written that he died 3,300 years ago, and his body was removed from his tomb and it was being put into the CT scanner so that the mysteries related to his death, his murder, or whatever the cause could be found out. Continue, Charvi.
All afternoon, the usual line of tourists from around the world had descended into the cramped rock-cut tomb, some 26 feet underground, to pay their respects. They gazed at the murals on the walls of the burial chamber and peered that Tut's glided face, the most striking feature of his mummy-shaped outer coffin lid. Some visitors read from guidebooks in a whisper. Others stood silently, perhaps pondering Tut's untimely death in his late teens or wondering with a shiver if the Pharaoh's curse, death or misfortune falling upon those who disturbed him, was really true.
Okay. So when his dead body was found, when the mummy was found, all afternoon there was a big line, huge line of the tourists. All the tourists, whoever heard the news about the mummy, they gathered around the tomb and people started going inside to pay their visit, to pay homage to rock cut 26 feet underground tomb. So it was 26 feet underground tomb and it was cramped rock cut tomb. So there was a big rock, that rock was cut and there his dead body was kept. They gazed at the murals. What are murals? Paintings on the walls. So even there were murals in the cave, in the tomb. So people gazed at the mural on the walls of burial chamber. Burial chamber means burial room. And the peered means saw. They also peered at Tut's glided face. Glided face means shining face. Tut's face was shining because of gold. It was covered with thin layer of gold. So like you decorate the sweet or some item with that thin layer of silver or gold. Same way, his face was covered. It was bright. It was shining with a layer of gold. And the most striking feature of this mummy was what? coffin lid, the lid of that coffin box. Coffin box is the box, is the casket where the dead bodies are kept. So that is coffin. Lid means that cover of that ढक्कन, uska jo cover hota hai, that is lid. So the striking feature of the lid was its shape. It was such a beautiful, so mummy shape outer coffin lid. Some visitors read from guidebook, and those people who came, they were doing their own things. Some were busy in praying, some were reading in the guidebook the reference given about the tomb. They were writing, they were whispering, some praying, standing silently. Some were afraid of that dead body, some were afraid that Tut would curse on them, and therefore they were behaving in a very, very responsible and sensible manner. So like that, different people were there, and some of them were shivering. They were frightened and shivering, as if Pharaoh's curse would destroy them. Pharaoh's curse would harm them. Death or misfortune falling upon those who disturbed him was really true. And they were wondering, if somebody disturbed him and interrupted his tomb, interrupted his sleep, he would curse them, he would chase them. Continue.
The mummy and its is in very bad condition because of what Carter did in the 1920s, said Zahi Hawass, General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, as he leaned over the body for a long first look. Carter, Howard Carter, that is, was the British archaeologist who in 1922 discovered Tut's tomb after years of futile searching. Its
Yes.
contents.
So mummy was found in very bad condition. It seems, it is written that, and an inquiry was set upon, and the head of inquiry was Zahi Hawass. He was the Secretary General of Egyptians, or Egypt Supreme Council of Antiquities. Whatever the antique piece, antique item related to archaeology or history were found or are found there in history. So he was the head, he was the in charge, and he blamed that because of Howard Carter, the coffin, the body of Tut is in very, very bad condition. He had himself investigated it, he had himself observed it, and Tut's tomb, after years of futile searching, was found in 1922 by Howard Carter. So obviously it was Howard Carter who was to be blamed by Jahi Hawass and his company. Continue.
Its contents, though hastily ransacked in antiquity, were surprisingly complete. They remain the richest royal collection ever found and have become part of the Pharaoh's legion. Stunning artifacts in gold, their eternal brilliance meant to guarantee resurrection.
Resurrection.
Scores.
Resurrection means punar janam, punar life. There is life after death. Means once somebody has died, he would rise to life again. For example, Jesus Christ, he died on Good Friday, and again on third day he rose. So therefore, Easter is celebrated by Catholic and Christian community. Why Easter is celebrated? They believe that Jesus Christ died on a cross. He was crucified on Friday. Therefore, Friday is known as Good Friday. What is good about Friday? Good is that Jesus Christ has sacrificed his own life. He died for humanity, for their sins, for their crime, for their repentance, and he was God's only son. He was God himself. So he died and he resurrected to life on third day. Therefore, Easter is celebrated. So here also it was the belief of Egyptian that Egypt people, according to their culture, according to their religion, they die, and on the on some day they again come to life. So here the mummy was found, and mummy was damaged, but they were surprised that all the gold, precious materials, silver, and whatever things are required for living a luxury life for the king, all the things were there in the coffin. So therefore they could guarantee the eternal life, they could guarantee the resurrection according to their belief, and therefore they used to keep all the things in the coffin box, especially of the royal rulers. Continue.
Their eternal brilliance, meant to guarantee resurrection, caused a sensation at the time of the discovery and still get the most attention. But Tut was also buried with everyday things he would want in the afterlife: board games, a bronze razor, linen undergarments, cases of food and wine. After
So
months of carefully
yes. So other than the luxurious item, gold, silver, he was also buried with day-to-day life items. Whatever we use or a person uses in daily life, he was buried with all those things. So in his tomb, they found razor for shaving. They found undergarments, board games, there's the game for playing, cases of food, cases for keeping the food, preserving the food, and also bottles of wine. After months of carefully recording the pharaoh's funerary treasure, Carter began investigating his three nested coffins. I repeat, after months of carefully recording the pharaoh's funerary treasure. तो funerary treasure क्या है? What is funerary treasure? उसके funeral के समय जब उसको बरी किया गया था, दफनाया गया था, तो उसके बॉक्स में जितने भी आइटम रखे गए थे उसका एक रिकॉर्ड रखा जाता है, खास करके आर्कियोलॉजिकल डिपार्टमेंट के द्वारा. सो इट टुक्स मंथ्स टू हावर्ड कार्टर फॉर रिकॉर्डिंग. उसका हिसाब लगाने में उसको महीने लग गए. एंड फर्स्ट ही रिकॉर्डेड ऑल दोस फ्यूनररी ट्रेजर, एंड देन ही स्टार्टेड इन्वेस्टिगेटिंग थ्री नेस्टेड कॉफिन. Three nested coffin means the three layer, the coffin was made in three layer. So, three nested coffins. Opening the first, he found a shroud adorned with garlands of willow. And so, when he opened the first layer of the coffin, what he found? He found shroud. Shroud means the coffin, covering cloth. That is called shroud. And also, it was adorned with garlands, flowers, willow, and olive leaves. Also, wild celery. So all these are the name of the plants, flowers, lotus petals, and cornflowers. The faded evidence of a burial in March or April. So it indicated according to this flower. Actually, these flowers they come in the month of March or April. So accordingly, they assume that he died in the month of March or April, or he was buried in the month of March or April. When he finally reached the mummy, though he ran into trouble, और finally जो उसकी third layer थी, so it was given three layer of protection. So when he reached the third level, even though it was very difficult for him to reach the third level, first he had to cross the two level. The ritual resins had hardened. Resins some chemicals. तो डेड बॉडी को प्रिजर्व करने के लिए जो केमिकल्स डाले जाते थे, रखे जाते थे, वो हार्ड हो गए थे. एंड बिकॉज ऑफ hardness, because they were hardened, it was very difficult for him to remove the dead body from the coffin box. He wanted to remove the dead body from the box. वो जो coffin box होता है उसमें से बॉडी को निकालना चाहता था, बट इट हैड बिकम स्टिकी, लेकिन उसकी जो बॉडी है पीछे से, पीठ की तरफ से जो कॉफिन का निचला नीचे का हिस्सा था उससे चिपक गई थी, एंड इट वाज वेरी वेरी डिफिकल्ट. द बॉटम ऑफ हिज सॉलिड गोल्ड कॉफिन, सो इट हैड गॉट स्टक टू हिज बैक like cement. No amount of legitimate force could move them. कितनी भी ताकत उन्होंने लगा ली, लेकिन उस बॉडी को बॉक्स से निकालने में सफल नहीं हुए. कार्टर wrote later what was to be done. और कार्टर ने बाद में लिखा है कि इसको कैसे निकाला गया या क्या किया जाना चाहिए. All right, so time is over now. We shall continue this tomorrow. Everybody, once again read it, and we shall continue tomorrow. All right, everyone.